What a fantastic day here at TIE Global Summit 2020. If you're still with us, you know there are some interesting sessions still coming up. This one talks about scale with non-linear costs using automation. I have Sunil Pudota, who's the CEO for Cloud4C RPA Solutions. Sunil, over to you.
Thanks, Gunjan. Very good afternoon to all, and a warm welcome to this session on unlocking value with automation for startups. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Milan, Executive Vice President, India and Middle East for Automation Anywhere. Milan is a seasoned professional with more than 20 years of experience advising the boards of leading public companies in digital services, technology enabled business transformation, and functional transformation. As an executive vice president, he is responsible for strengthening of the world-class talent pool, expanding of partner ecosystem, and delivering business outcomes for customers. Before joining Automation Anywhere, Milan served as the senior partner and national director for technology business at Ernst& Young for over 18 years. In his last role, he was managing partner of technology, media and entertainment, and telecommunication consulting business. He was also a global co-lead for the company's intelligent automation practice and managed client service in the emerging markets geographies. Today, he'll be talking about how startups can scale with non-linear costs using automation. All yours, Milan. Thanks for joining us. You're on mute, Milan.
Thank you, Sunil, for the introduction, and thank you, TIE team, for having me here and giving us the opportunity to share our views on how automation can play a role in the startup ecosystem. Before I kind of discuss about the startup ecosystem, and I think the first thing, some admission that we ourselves are I would say a late stage startup. Automation Anywhere is a company which was founded in Baroda, in state of Gujarat in India, way back in 2003, and it ran as a private company for 16 years, and then we did a probably the biggest Series A investment of 550 million in 2018, and since then it has been an exemplary growth for the company with some of the leading investors such as SoftBank, General Atlantic, NEA, Goldman Sachs, and Salesforce Ventures investing in the company over a period of time. So that's about us, and how, as we have scaled from a very small company of sub 300 people to today almost 4,000 people, how we have used automation to drive our growth without necessarily touching the entire cost structures and cost bases. So that's one of the one of the things I want to share with all of you. The second aspect is that the innovation itself, and I'll explain a little bit more about what we do as a company, but we are the digital workforce provider across the world. We are the leading company in the top 2 as per the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And today we build bots, which is, I think most of you are familiar with bots, but we build bots which essentially augment human capacity in doing variety of tasks, variety of judgments in a business or enterprise environment. So that's a bit about us. And again, as I said, very happy to be here and sharing with you our thoughts. Product companies coming out of India, probably now many of the TIE members are doing a fantastic work, but probably 15 years back, when the world was all heading towards services, the 4 co-founders of Automation Anywhere actually took a punt and set up the company to build an enterprise class software product, and that's what it's been a journey of multiple pivots. I think that's the word which startups get it, but essentially landed up in this sweet category of robotic process automation and AI-enabled automation is something which today Automation Anywhere is all about. So I just wanted to share that, the TIE being the perfect platform to encourage entrepreneurship and build companies ground up. I think Automation Anywhere is still in that stage. We call us as a late stage startup, but we are still startup in our mindset and the way we approach business problems and solving those problems. I talked about us, and I want to spend a few minutes on this because from a 300-member organization till 2015 till 2020, we've actually gone 4,000 customers worldwide. We have 2.1 million bots deployed in the world today. We've built a very strong community through our Automation Anywhere University, because one of the biggest learning for us, and that's where the scale again comes into picture, is that if you want to go and create users who will use your technology, you first need to seed that community. And we have done a very extensive courses across colleges, engineering colleges across 15 countries in the world, where we've started teaching this in the fourth year engineering per se. And we, of course, have a very strong partner ecosystem with 90-odd presence in 90-odd countries. And I talked about our Series A and Series B funding. But I think what's crucial here is that why it has grown and why a hyperscale has happened in past 3 years in such a rapid manner is because the problem we are solving, and that problem is which is equally applicable to large enterprises as well as to startups. And what is that problem? The problem is you have limited resources, limited capital, and even limited time. But you want to get best-in-class processes to run your finance, your HR, your customer service, supply chain, and so on. And in a classical model for startups, the only option, or even for that matter, large enterprises, was all about hiring people, training them, doing that iterative process of getting that right talent and so on and so forth. And that's where bots have come in a big way per se. I've been told that I shouldn't be doing a sales pitch, but I just want to say one thing, that if you're a startup and you want to put first 20 bots in your finance, HR, etc., what all you can do is that go to a bot store like an app store and download the first 20 bots, which can allow you to straight away set up your operations and start running your operations today. We work with startups across the world, and our product is being used by many of the early stage or late stage startups in scaling up their operations. Now, just switching from this conversation, because I know that the TIE participants are not just restricted to India, but an interesting insight which we derived that as we really look at industries where there's the scale up has always been a linear equation, that you are growing from X capacity to a Y capacity, and what you do is that in your technology or your people, there is a linear equation which is happening. This is true for industries from professional services to government to retail, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. And one of the exercises which we have done based on data, with industries here, that if you were to scale it up and make yourself more productive, how do you make yourself more productive? Is by improving your throughput and improving your productivity. And that's one area where economies like India, or for that matter, any economy which is a middle income economy, the best way you can move from a middle income to a high income economy is by doing productivity gain. And automation is one of the levers, not the only lever, one of the levers to drive that productivity gain. And it doesn't necessarily mean our technology. It could be a hardware robotics, where on the shop floor you can use hardware bots to drive the throughput. It could be a software robotics, which we represent, or it could be so many other technologies. Could be cloud, could be SaaS, could be analytics, and so on. But essentially, the productivity gain which you could achieve in the economy is something which is exponential because of the use of this technology. And we continue to work with various emerging economies. In my role, as Sunil mentioned in the very beginning, that various countries which are really looking forward to technology, whether it's in Middle East, whether it's in Africa, in CIS, Russia, and those are the regions we have found that those economies, there is a natural tendency that the Western economies are the biggest buyers of technology, but we find very interestingly that in our company today, the emerging market contributes almost 30% of our revenue uh, because these economies are very, very keen to improve their productivity and adopt technologies to make that happen. So I just wanted to share that our learning, this is how we have scaled our company in last 5 years. Instead of focusing only on the Western economies, which again is a very big contributor to our revenue, but we also focused heavily on the emerging economies so that we capture that transition which is happening in these economies and play a significant part, and in turn grow our company per se. And I'm the reason I'm sharing that is because I think this will be of interest to all the Thai colleagues on just the sheer size of opportunity which is opened up and a lot of learning for us per se. Uh, so what are we essentially doing? I think in a very simple sense, for a layman's point of view, today a human worker does basically three things. A human worker engages either with a customer, supplier, or another employee in an organization, obviously makes some decisions, uh, and then you keep on finding opportunities to improve. How to improve my experience, how to improve my product, how to improve my services, and so on and so forth. And and today we believe that this human worker can get augmented heavily by a digital worker, and it allows you to make your enterprise truly a digital enterprise. One of the learnings for us in pandemic, and I'm sure all of you have get your own set of takeaways, is that the uh, many of the organizations have always enabled only the front end channel as digital, but everything internal to the company is still analog. And that's where what happens is that your customers interact with you in a matter of seconds, but when it comes to your response from finance, from supply chain, from customer service, it tends to be at times semi-digital or analog at times as well. It's And you've not made your entire enterprise digital, and that's the kind of space which we think has a huge opportunity for startup ecosystem uh, by not just investing on your digital interface and channel interface, but even internal places, just kind of deploy digital worker. What it does, of course, as the name suggests, that robotic processes automates the processes, minimizes the error, and creates that always available 24/7 worker, which can complement the human workforce, which you have. Uh, this is the kind of a view and why this is critical. And I think somewhere, various, either listeners today to this conversation could either be our partners, could either be our consumers, or could either be our collaborators in multiple ways. And let me explain that what I mean by that. As this ecosystem evolves across the world, there are multiple bots which company like us builds, but these bots have to be delivered in a company and an end customer, and that's where many of the startups work with us. In fact, out of our 2,000 odd partners, we almost have 50% of our partners are startups, which essentially take this technology to their end customer and implement this technology. Then we have integrations. Almost all large enterprises today use either a Salesforce, an SAP, an Oracle. How do you integrate them and work with them? And then we have cloudification. I think pandemic has driven a significant cloud initiative across enterprises, all geographies, not just Western world. And then again, you work with set of partners to cloudify and move those workers straight away on cloud from day one. So in a nutshell, what we do is that if you have, let's say, an HR process, you are a startup, you want to hire and want to interview 50 people a month. In a normal life, what you would do is that you would essentially take a service from a recruiter. Instead of that, probably you could use a digital worker called as a recruiter from Automation Anywhere, which will scan through the CVs, which will initiate mail exchange with the candidates, schedule the interviews. Obviously, interviews have to be done by a human interviewer, and then the feedback is captured and put in the system, whatever system you're using. So just one simple example, but this can be applied as a startup scale in every part of the business where you cannot probably spend precious dollar, and you can use some of the digital workers to kind of provide that part of it. So this is my last kind of a slide, and I want to highlight our story again, because I think the best is that today in Automation Anywhere we have around 50 bots in our HR process. So everything from payroll processing to onboarding of candidates to changing the system and giving system access to our people is something which we do it through bots. In our finance, we have around 27 bots. This does everything from billing, payable invoices, some reconciliations in bank, etc., and so on and so forth. And then we have bots to build our proposals in our proposal factory, where if you're a customer, there's a new customer coming in, we feed the basic information, and then bot goes to the website, searches your name, gathers the information, puts it in a PowerPoint or a PDF, and sends it across to you. So we have scaled, and we have put that all these resources, we have put it in an engineering function, which is the core R&D and where we want to develop a product. But a lot of our support and enablement functions is something which we have completely left it to digital workers to scale our operations. And obviously, if you ever engage with us, you will find that this is exactly the way we've been able to scale up a very small company to a reasonably sized company in a short period of time. So I think I would just simply say that the hustle which a startup requires to scale fast and reach out to the large number of customers, you could do this with some of the solution like ours, and essentially save on cost, and basically, more importantly, more than saving, put that capital where it can get the maximum bang for the buck. So I'll take a pause here, Sunil, and happy to, if there are any questions or comments, happy to engage and discuss further.
Thanks, Milan. Whatever you have shared will be a great story from Automation Anywhere. It will be a great inspiration for all the startups who want to do something different. And the way you have grown all the way from Baroda and having such a large presence across the globe is a great inspiration to all of us. Great job, Automation Anywhere team. Thanks, Milan, for bringing that wonderful story to all of us. Coming to the automation portion, Milan, just wanted to have your views on a couple of questions we have today. One is, how is Automation Anywhere scaling up with the use of automation technology?
So Sunil, I think probably I think you would relate to my answer, particularly given your company. I think the biggest friction point today in scaling up in a company is that can you scale up at the lowest cost with fastest speed? And one of the ways we have started doing it for the small and medium enterprises is to move from day one on cloud. And today our bots, you don't have to necessarily invest in a hardware or infrastructure within your organization. So that's more of a scale up on the technology side. The second scale up is on the function side, that what bots can I use? And that's where I referred earlier to a bot store. So if you go to our website and put a bot store, you will find hundreds of bots, which are ready to download per se. So to very simply put, a scale up happens when you remove friction. And what are the friction? Friction is hardware cost. Friction is to start fast. And the final friction point is that do you have ecosystem? Can people develop bots? The great news is that in India, we have trained almost 35,000 people who are certified and can build bots. And many of the employees can build it. It's a relatively easy. So you've again removed friction, that instead of leaving this technology and having a very, very a large expensive project, I think you can do this in parts very rapidly. So we've tried to, one of the words Mihir, who's a founder and the CEO, uses really well, and I love that statement, so I'll make it, is that we're trying to be an enterprise technology with the virality of a consumer app, right? So you have to have that scale and infrastructure and security, but it has to be viral, and it can only be viral when you remove this friction point. So those are the ways, Sunil, we're trying to scale up with our customers.
Thanks, Milan. And for the startups who are there around, any areas you would suggest that the startup ecosystem can benefit with the use of automation technologies?
I think the as I said in the conversation that when startups are trying to preserve resources and use it more on the engineering or on the product or on the marketing dollars, I think those are the places where startup typically prioritize, and which is what we did as a company as well. We wanted to, every dollar we had, very limited dollars we had, but every dollar we had, we wanted to spend on long-term solutions. Some of the necessary must-haves, but not strategic in nature, is something where startups can use technology like ours to bring both speed, faster speed, and a lower cost. And as I talked about the areas, Sunil, so I'll not repeat it, but uh, enabling functions and so on, I think those are the easy candidates.
So thanks, Milan. Another area from the chat is many customers have seen lot of adoption in the initial phases, but they have kind of dropped off or disappointed with the results. Uh, what are your views on?
I think it's a all of us, especially the members who are work with technology, will appreciate this, that change, especially if you're selling to a business enterprise. I think those are the toughest. They are very, very sticky customers, but to make that change happen is a very, very complex process. And I think anybody who's been in a software world and selling to large enterprises or even medium enterprises knows this. So I think the biggest reason why the disappointment happens is that after the early, I would say hype sometimes and early joys, I think in order to sustain it requires ownership, executive involvement, and most importantly, a very, very, very well-defined value realization. Uh, because many a times customers buy technology, make technology decisions, particularly on the business side, because they see excitement, and if that excitement doesn't get delivered faster, sometimes doesn't deliver that value perception which they have the technology will deliver, I think it leads to a disappointment. So while the technology has worked, it has delivered your initial objective, but it doesn't scale. And I think we attribute that to engaging the customers, making them adopt the technology in a very, very, I would say, value realized way.
Yeah, there are 2 points which have come up here. One is ability to scale, which is predominantly from the business side rather than from a technology side. Second is, I think we need to look at making the entire automation as a complete activity rather than working in a silo, which initially might give a success, but in the long term ends up with not so much of happiness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you, Kusaman.
Any other questions? I think we are done with the questions. Milan, thanks a lot for your time, and it's a pleasure that we have you here. And thank you, and thanks for your wonderful advice to the startups. It was a real good motivation for all the startups on the journey which Automation Anywhere has taken. Gunjan, back to you.
Yeah, thank you for great questions. And I think, as I said, very happy to be here as a part of the Thai community. I know it's a Thai global event. We are a proud Indian Indian heritage product company. So very happy to be here as a part of this forum. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Milan, for your time, and thank you, Sunil, for deep diving into this conversation with Milan. Thank you again, both of you gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Milan.
Thank you, Gunjan.
Bye-bye.
It was
Thank you,
quite
Sharma.
interesting session.
Bye.